Hi everyone, Janie here. Welcome back to my garden and welcome to my April front garden tour. Every month on my channel, I do a front garden tour and a back garden tour just so that we can see the progress of the garden. I am so excited about this month because there are so many new things going on in the garden. Everything's waking up. I've planted a lot of new plants, new annuals. I'm a little afraid that I'm not going to remember the names of everything, so just bear with me. So I have so much to show you guys, and I don't want to skimp out on any of it. So grab a drink, grab a cup of coffee, grab a glass of wine, relax, and let's get started. Okay, so let me start over in my crepe myrtle garden bed today. So this is my crepe myrtle garden bed. I obviously call that the crepe myrtle garden bed because there's a giant, beautiful crepe myrtle tree right in the middle of it. And the crepe myrtle tree is starting to leaf out right now, which is so wonderful. I love this tree. It's so beautiful. Usually in about June to July, it starts blooming. It is deciduous, so it does lose all its leaves. And that is one thing that I don't love about the crepe myrtle tree, but it does have beautiful bark, beautiful structure, and it is something I hope it lasts as long as we live here, because I love this tree so much. The other thing I love about this garden bed are my calla lilies that I have right here. I feel like I show these off to you guys all the time, but look at how many blooms there are. There are so many blooms, and there's new ones popping up every single day. So these two are my oldest plants. These two are probably about 4 years old, but the mother plant is probably older than that. How I divided these is I just dug the whole plant up, cut it in half, and planted these two plants. And they are just thriving in this spot right here. So because I knew that these plants were thriving in this spot underneath this crepe myrtle tree, I went to the garden center earlier this season and I picked up 3 more or 4 more, 3 more, I think. And I have one here, one over here, and then finally a third one right up front that's actually not blooming right now, but there's 2 buds coming out. So my thought for this garden bed is to have a ring of calla lilies all around the tree, and I think it's just going to be so incredibly beautiful. So in addition to those calla lilies, I also have a ring of bobo hydrangeas. They are just starting to leaf out right now. They're probably one of the latest hydrangeas that leaf out. I have some of these in my backyard as well. I always think they're dead, and then they start coming alive, and I get really, really excited. So we will see how those do. Those are right next to my foxtail ferns over there. I get asked about those a lot because they're this gorgeous chartreuse green color. They do so well for us here in Northern California, Zone 9B. And I really think they're just one of those plants that are so nice to have in the garden. Right here, I have another one of my favorite plants. You guys are gonna hear me say, there's about 100 plants that are my favorite plants. This is a heliotrope, and I love this plant simply because of the scent. The scent of this plant in the evening is like a vanilla perfume. It is just so wonderful. These are babies. They will start growing. They're actually only hardy to maybe zone 9, but definitely zone 10. So they're gonna be an annual for a lot of you. They actually are a perennial for me here in zone 9B, especially if I put them in a protected space. So I am hoping that these will grow in and I will have a mass of heliotrope that I can enjoy the scent every time I walk by and go to my car, which is right here. All right, then I will just work my way down this way of the crepe myrtle garden bed. Here I have geraniums, and I apologize, I don't know the names of these geraniums. I actually got these off the clearance rack. I love finding plants off the clearance rack. And so geraniums are a really easy one for us to find because they look like they're not doing well, but really all they have to do is be deadheaded. So you can see I have so many buds about to go absolutely crazy. I know that this variety is a little bit different than this variety, and I'm sorry. I wish I had the name for you guys. I just didn't write it down. Right in front here, this is my silvery blue color to contrast against the green of the geraniums and the green of the mystic blue salvia that I have over here. These are called Angel Wings Senecio, and so far I am loving this plant. I've had a lot of people say they've had difficulty with this plant, but what I've heard is that you really don't want to water it, like barely at all. I think that that's the secret. I will see how they go as the summer heats up and it gets warmer and drier here, but right now they're huge. They have grown so much already. I just planted these, I want to say like a month and a half ago, and they are doing so very well. So I'm excited about these. And then right here, it's another one of my favorite plants. It's a Mystic Spires Salvia. It is, you guys, it is the most wonderful plant. It is my top favorite plant that I have. It's just starting to bud up right now. They have these gorgeous purple spiky blooms. The bees love it. The butterflies love it. The hummingbirds love it. You can see I have a couple buds going on here, and this thing will just be covered. One of the reasons why I love this plant so much is because it's so versatile. This is kind of a part sun garden bed. It's hard for me to describe it very well. It's a part sun garden bed, but it's actually a west facing garden bed. So it's not part shade, because part shade means you get morning sun. This gets the hot afternoon sun. So it has to be able to handle that type of heat and then also not a ton of sunlight. And this plant does so well. I also have some of it over there in a full sun location. I also have some of it in my backyard. I just love this plant. Coming forward over here, I just added this whole area. When my family moved into this house in 2020, they had done most of this hardscaping. We didn't have to do this hardscaping, which was incredible because I have a feeling it was like a very expensive job. And some of the things that they did with the hardscaping, you know, putting in the pathways, putting in the raised beds, but they also put in some landscape rocks. And last year I had some lantana planted in front of this landscape rock and it completely covered it. And I didn't like that. I really wanted the landscape rock to be shown. So I decided that this year I was going to plant a lot lower plants so that we could see the landscape rock the whole time. So what I decided to do is I did Creeping Jenny as a ground cover, and then I dotted SUPERTUNIA Blue Skies throughout it. I found that SUPERTUNIA Blue Skies does a little bit better with a little bit more shade. SUPERTUNIA Blue Skies is a part sun to full sun SUPERTUNIA, as with our all proven winners SUPERTUNIAs, but I really think that the SUPERTUNIA Blue Skies, I think it bleaches out a little bit when you have too much sun, so I think it's better for it to put it in a little bit more shady spot. So I think this spot with the crepe myrtle garden bed will be perfect. Then when I planted the Creeping Jenny, I know all of you guys, not all of you guys, a lot of you guys were really worried about how much it was going to spread. And it is going to spread. I'm aware that it's going to spread, but I kind of want that in this garden bed. I do have lamium over here as my ground cover, and I love it. It's beautiful, except for it does scorch as we get hot. So I've decided that I'm gonna start phasing out the lamium. I'm not gonna pull it, but I'm not gonna add any more to it. I'm gonna start phasing out the lamium. Here you can see it's kind of blooming right now. It's a tough plant. I love it, love it, love it, but it's a tough plant for our heat. And I'm gonna start replacing it with the Creeping Jenny. And I think that that is probably a better choice for our environment, for our climate. I think it's going to be able to handle it a lot better. And I really do want most of the ground covered in this garden bed. All right, the last thing that I want to show you, one of the things I'm so excited about, and those are my foxgloves. I have a grouping right here, and then I have more babies coming over here. You can see those. And then I have even more behind me. I'll have Jason show you after you see these. Even more behind me in this garden bed right here. And they are about to pop. So I like planting Camelot mix foxgloves. There's purples, there's pinks, there's cream colors of the Camelot mix. They're beautiful, but the reason why I love Camelot mix foxgloves is because they bloom first season. So normally foxgloves, they take 2 years to bloom. You plant them the first season and they grow and they get very leafy and very beautiful, but you won't see any blooms the first season. You have to wait for the second season and then they die. And that's fine. I just don't have patience for that. And I want foxgloves right now. So I planted a whole bunch of these last season and it was so incredibly gorgeous. I left most of them in the ground and about half of them overwintered. I think it gets a little too hot for all of them to overwinter for me. And so I planted a whole bunch of, probably like 72 new ones around the garden bed. So I'm hoping that they will start blooming very soon, maybe for my May garden tour. All right, let me show you guys my lemon coral sedum walkway. So the walkway up to the front of my house is lined with what's called lemon coral sedum. It is a beautiful, beautiful plant. It's kind of like this lime chartreusey green, except for this month and about next month. And that is because this plant is so happy here in my garden that it does bloom for me. And I have to say, I'm not a huge fan of these blooms. They're fine, they're pretty. The pollinators love them, so I will leave some of them on, but I like it when these plants are bright green. So pretty much every year, this time of year, I look at my lemon coral sedum border and I think, should I replace it? Should I replace it with a boxwood hedge? Should I replace it with, lavender, something else? And then after about a month, it goes back to its green color and I love it again. So it looks beautiful, it's thriving, it's super, super happy, but I just don't love the yellow color this time of year. Before I forget, I do want to point out my Breath of Heaven shrub right here. I often get asked about this one. It is blooming right now with these little tiny pink blooms and I absolutely love it. I love this plant. It's a South African native, so it does like the heat, but it cannot handle too much water. I did have 2 more of these over in my garden bed over here. I will show you guys in a little bit, and they did succumb to the amount of rain that we had here in California this year. So I have new ones in. They're doing great already, but they're just babies compared to this one. All right, let's come up this way. Right here, I have a new plant that I'm planting actually for my hummingbird family. We had a hummingbird mama make a nest for hummingbirds right over on our star jasmine, kind of right by our garage, and there were 2 babies in that nest. And so I decided I already have a lot of hummingbird friendly plants in my garden, but I had to add more. So this one right here is called Vermillionaire Kufia from Proven Winners. I do work with Proven Winners. They do send me a lot of their plants to try out in Zone 9B. So you'll see I'll talk a lot about Proven Winners plants, and that is because I have a ton of Proven Winners plants in my garden, which makes me very happy because I love them. So this is called Vermillionaire Kufia. It has these orange tubular shaped flowers that hummingbirds absolutely love. This is a drought tolerant and heat tolerant plant as well. And you guys will see this whole garden bed, I'm kind of switching over into more drought tolerant and heat tolerant varieties because I know how hot we are here in California. We get up to triple digits for weeks on end in the summer, and I want to make sure my plants are able to handle that. So let's go up the walkway right here. Right here, this crazy monster is a Superbena Whiteout. It is one of my favorite Superbenas. They have absolutely giant umbel flowers. Look at how big this bloom head is. And it will get to the point where it's completely covered in white. It's so beautiful. This plant is a perennial for me. You'll see it gets a little woody on the inside. I don't even care because it completely gets covered with blooms and it's really, really beautiful. Coming up this way, I do have a whole bunch of very exciting sweet peas growing. So this variety is called Mrs. R. Bolton. I got them from Swallowtail Seeds. They are beautiful. Come up here. Let me show you, Jason, a little bit closer. This color is just, it is fantastic. And I don't know about you guys, but I just cannot get over the smell of sweet peas. It is one of my favorite scents in the garden. I just find it so beautiful. So what I did is I planted a ton of sweet peas all along this fence or gate, whatever you want to call it. And there are going to be blooms all over this, I think, in another week. I'm so excited because I think it's going to be beautiful. Last year, this is where I put my dahlias. They did okay. I had kind of a rough year with dahlias last year. I'm gonna try them again this year, so hopefully in the next week or two, I will plant my dahlias all along this gate. The sweet peas, they'll fizzle out because it'll get too hot for them pretty quick here. We do have to fall sow our sweet peas here in Zone 9B, California, because they just don't grow fast enough if we spring sow or even winter sow them. We do have to fall sow them. So my Mrs. R. Boltons, they're ready to go, and I think this whole area is going to be covered with those beautiful pink blooms. So this garden bed right behind me is what I'm calling my drought-tolerant garden bed this year. There's kind of two goals I had for this garden bed this year. One was I wanted it to be bright and colorful and have a ton of blooms. Right behind Jason is my front annual swoop, and that is where I put all of my annuals, and it's always the brightest spot in my garden, and I love it so much. But then the contrast to this garden bed back here makes this garden bed look really, really dark. So one of my goals for this garden bed was to have tons of blooms, and then the other goal that I already told you guys about is that I wanted to have more drought-tolerant, heat-tolerant plants. So that's what I did. This month I planted this garden bed up with a bunch of those type of plants, and I want to show them to you. First off, I have this one, which is a new one to me. This is called a Calilophus, and this is called SUNGLOW, SUNGLOW Calilophus. And it is native to actually California, Arizona, kind of the southwest area. And I've actually seen pictures of this plant, this exact plant, in some Southern California gardens, and it's absolutely beautiful. You can see I only put this plant in just a little bit ago, maybe, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or something, and it's already growing like crazy. So I'm imagining it's going to kind of spill over the stone right here and be my trailer. Then behind that, I don't really have any blooming quite yet. I have this Euryops right here. It's called a high noon Euryops. It's another drought tolerant plant. It is going to handle our heat like a champ, and that is because of its lacy leaves right here. Lacy leaves means less surface area. Less surface area means less evaporation and less water needs for the plant. Then right behind that, I have the Proven Winners Annual of the Year, and that is Truffula Pink Gomphrena. I'm sure you all have heard of this plant. It is one of the best plants. It is a heat lover. Like, I cannot tell you, as soon as it gets hot, you can see the leaves are a little bit purple right now, and that's because it's been a little cold for it, right? We've had a couple cold nights. Now it's starting to warm up, and it will start going absolutely crazy. And then finally behind that, this is the one that I'm super excited about. This is called Luscious Lantana Pink Berry Blend. Look at that color, you guys. So it has pink in it, it has orange in it, it has yellow in it. This is the plant that's going to bring this whole garden bed together. Luscious Lantana is a series of lantana that's bred to be low to no seed set. So if you guys have experienced lantana spreading in your garden, say you live in the South, if you go with the Luscious Lantana series, you actually won't have that problem. Then the Luscious Lantana series, there are different sizes, different vigors of the different varieties. The Pink Berry Blend has a vigor of 4. It is going to get big. So they look tiny right now, but I actually planted them too close together, honestly, and they're probably going to be crowding each other, which is kind of the look I want. I kind of just wanted it to be absolutely full of color. You can see behind here, these were actually, I planted these last year. These are my Spanish lavender, and hopefully you can get this, Jason. There's bees all over them right now, all over them. They absolutely love this plant. So this is kind of a staple in our area, and it is definitely the time of year when they're going crazy. All right, so let me show you guys my front annual swoop, but first I need to show off something, and that is this sign right here. This is the sign for the Pence Gallery Garden Tour. It is a tour in my local town that I'm in on May 7th, and I cannot tell you guys how proud I am of this sign. They just dropped it off today, so I just put it up right before we started filming. So this garden tour is put on by a gallery, an art gallery here in our town, and we've been going ever since we moved here to Davis, and it is the most beautiful tour you've been on. You basically get ticket, and then you drive to different homes around Davis and you see the gardens, the beautiful gardens that they have. And ever since I started gardening, I had this joke with my family. They would say, "Mommy, what do you want for Mother's Day?" or "What do you want for Christmas?" And I would joke with them and I would say, "I want to be in the Pence Gallery garden tour." And we would all laugh because we all thought it would never be possible. These gardens are too beautiful, too big, too fancy, too established, and I didn't think that we would ever get in. Now, this past year, they called me and they asked me to be in the garden tour, and I cannot tell you guys how proud I am to be in this garden tour. So it is on May 7th. If you're anywhere local, please come, please stop by. I would love to show off my garden to you guys, and I'm just so excited about it. So we're about a week away and I think I'm pretty much ready. So let me get back to the plants. This is my front annual swoop. My front annual swoop I save for color. I always plant annuals in this swoop because it's the first thing you see of my house when you drive down. I live on a corner lot, so this swoop is on my corner, and I really want it to be bright and beautiful. So this year I kind of took inspiration from a container I had in my backyard last year, and that container had a SUPERTUNIA limoncello, which is this yellow and creamy white SUPERTUNIA, and a yellow LANTANA. And it was just such a happy, cheerful combination that I wanted to reproduce that in my front swoop this year. So let me show you a little bit closer look about what I chose to put in my swoop this year. First off, I have more LANTANA, that same Luscious LANTANA series. This one right here, this is called Luscious LANTANA Berry Blend. This is another one like the Pink Berry Blend that is extremely vigorous. It's going to get big. It is going to overlap my lawn, and I don't care. So you can see I have lots of yellows, but this brings in the pink, and I'm really, really excited about that because this berry blend is pink and then it has kind of like this creamy orangey yellow in the center. So it's going to bring everything together just like the Pink Berry Blend did in my drought tolerant garden bed. Now you can see this Luscious LANTANA right here. Compare that to this one over here that is not as vigorous. This one is called Luscious LANTANA Pina Colada, and it is a creamy white yellow, that yellow LANTANA that I was looking for. It's just a lot smaller, and you can see almost a little bit behind, well, it is behind the Berry Blend. So two different varieties of LANTANA. Again, little to no seed set, so I don't have to worry. You know, LANTANA doesn't spread for us here anyway, but I think that that's something to remind all of you if you guys are worried about LANTANA spreading. Then I have a new annual for 2023, and that is SUPERTUNIA Mini Vista Yellow. It is so pretty, such a cheerful plant. I love SUPERTUNIA Mini Vistas because they're just as vigorous as the Vista series, like SUPERTUNIA Vista Bubblegum or SUPERTUNIA Vista Jazzberry, but they're just kind of smaller. So this plant is going to get about 2 feet wide. It's going to be covered with these yellow blooms, and these yellow blooms are supposed to not fade in the sun, which is really exciting because this is definitely a full sun garden bed. Then for a little bit of green accent, I have more of this lemon coral sedum. You can see it started off this green color and now it's turning a little bit yellow just for this next month or two, and then it'll go back to that chartreusey green. And then finally, I have this beautiful thing. This beautiful thing, I cannot tell you guys the name yet. Probably a lot of you have found the name on the internet because it is out there, but this is a 2024 introduction for Proven Winners. Again, Proven Winners gives me a lot of their plants to try out in my Zone 9B garden, and that includes 2024 plants that they want me to try out and they want me to see how they do in my garden bed. So like I said, a lot of you have probably heard a lot of the names of the 2024s that I have in my garden. I am just a home gardener. I am not a grower. I am not a seller. So I don't have clearance to talk about these plants yet. And there's a good reason for that. Proven Winners wants to emphasize the 2023s that they have. They don't want to just go past the beautiful plants that have come out in 2023. They also don't want people to go to the garden center trying to look for the 2024s when there's only 2023s and earlier there. So I am not going to be talking about the 2024s. I can't say their name until May 1st. So stay tuned for May 1st. I think that's next Monday. I'm going to be doing my 2024 introduction video where I will talk all about them. I'll talk about the ones that I'm growing in my garden this year. I actually am growing most of them because they sent me most of them, and I don't have spots for all of them yet, but I will find spots for them. So a lot of you guys were wondering why I wasn't saying the names, even though they were on, you know, you can kind of find them, right? And you can see them in the comment section. And that's why. That's because I am just a homeowner, grower, and I don't have clearance yet. All right, so let's come down this way. I told you guys this garden tour was going to be a long one. So let me bring you guys over to my Eden Climbing Rose Arch. Now, it's growing beautifully, but if you get in a little bit closer, you can see the potential. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are millions of buds of this rose on these two bushes right here. You guys, I am so excited about this. It is going to be absolutely beautiful. So I got these Eden Climbers from heirloomroses.com. I planted them not last November, but the November before that. So what does that make? Makes it the second growing season, and look at how tall they are already. So I am so excited for this guy to grow in. Underneath that, I did plant, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the name right now. SUNSTAR Lavender Pentas. And those are right here. So that should be growing in. They're still babies. Here, I wanted to show you guys, not all plants do well when you transplant them. You can see this one over here. This one, I forgot to hook up to drip. And so it is crispy. I don't know if it's gonna come back. I hope it's gonna come back, but you will see there's a couple other places in my garden that I forgot to hook up to drip as I was frantically planting everything. So yeah, we all make mistakes, right? So coming this way, I wanna show you guys my bearded iris. This just started blooming, what would you say, Jason, like yesterday or the day before? It's so pretty. So these were here in my oak tree garden bed when we moved in. There was a big clump of them, and I took them all and I divided them, and I put some here and I put some over in my side yard. And I already need to divide them again. They are absolutely taking over, but they're so incredibly beautiful. I don't know the names of them. If any of you think you know the name or think you can identify it, I would love it. They're this white, and then they're edged. I think that's called Piketty. They're edged in this lavender color, and they are so incredibly beautiful. And you can see how many more buds I have coming up as well. One thing I forgot to show you guys when we were over on the lawn, Jason, can you get over here and show my homestead verbena? It is like this electric purple verbena that does so well for us in this climate. Do you see this? It's just so incredibly beautiful, and it just thrives. I did put a luscious lantana pinkberry and a SUNGLOW callolophus in there, and I'm a little worried about them to see how they do, but may the strongest man win. I think they're just gonna be beautiful. And then all throughout here, I have some ranunculus that I planted that I'm enjoying so much. Look at this one. Look at this guy. I should have got this and brought this inside. I might bring this inside later today. Isn't that beautiful? So right behind here, this is called my red bud garden bed. And obviously it's called a red bud garden bed because I have my red bud tree right here. This is my Oklahoma red bud. It's fairly new. We planted it last season, so it's still growing in. But underneath there, I have all these plants that I planted, again, from Proven Winners. I think they're going to be absolutely beautiful. So down here, well, in the back here, the tallest ones, this is called Meteor Shower Verbena. I'm sure you guys have seen this one before. It is heat tolerant, it is drought tolerant, it is pollinator friendly. It's going to love its life here. Right below that, I have Augusta Lavender Heliotrope. This is just a different version of the common heliotrope that I pointed out in my crepe myrtle garden bed. This one is not as highly scented as the as the common heliotrope, but this one handles the heat so much better. So I'm excited to see how these do. And then finally down here, I have SUPERTUNIA VISTA Snowdrift. I have I planted 4 of them. These are gonna get huge. These are gonna get about 4 feet wide. So it's going to completely cover the area. I'm sure by the end of the season, it's gonna be covering the sidewalk, and I don't care. I'm super, super excited about it. Then coming right over here, I have what I am affectionately calling my no-name garden bed. I couldn't decide on the name, so I called it in a video the no-name garden bed, and you guys said, just call it the no-name garden bed. So it's the no-name garden bed. In the back, I have my Clematis armandii that I absolutely love. It's done blooming for the season, but I love the foliage on it. I think it is so very pretty. Then surrounding it, I have a bunch of plants that are both sun and shade tolerant, so they can handle both. This garden bed and the garden bed over there in my gated garden bed are both kind of difficult because they get a lot of shade, because this is the north side of my house. But as the season goes on and the sun gets higher in the summer sky, these garden beds start getting a lot of sun. So it's always hard for me to find a really good plant to plant here. And these are the plants that I decided, and I'm really excited about them. First, we have the Color Blaze Mini Me Watermelon, which is new for 2023. It's the smallest of the Color Blaze series, and it has these watermelon kind of corally pink colors, and then it's edged in green. This is a pretty new one, so it's just starting to grow. Over here, we have another coleus. This is called Torchlight. This is a baby as well. You can see the new leaves will be edged in green. And this one will get about 3 feet tall. So it's gonna be really big, and then we're gonna have the Mini Me watermelon down below. Then in front of that, we have the Double Up Pink Begonia. This is another plant that can handle the sun and the shade, both of it. So I kind of just don't have to worry about these plants, which is something that I'm really, really excited about. All right, let's go into my gated garden bed. Jason is struggling because the sun is directly in his eyes. So if all of a sudden he starts filming something totally different, that's why. All right, coming in here, this is another kind of garden bed. I did film it, but I haven't shown you guys the video yet. And that is simply because this is more 2024s. So I lined this whole walkway with alternating SUPERTUNIA Mini VISTA Scarlet, which is new for 2023. Jason, come over here. You can see this one right here. Oh, actually, let me show you this one. This one's beautiful. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? So this is SUPERTUNIA Mini VISTA Scarlet. It is just like that SUPERTUNIA Mini VISTA Yellow. It's going to get about 2 feet wide. And then right next to that, I have this one, which I cannot talk about, but look at how pretty it is. Does that remind you of something else that we've seen before? Anyway, so I just love this kind of like scarlet pink color alternating with this deep purple color. I think it is going to be absolutely gorgeous when it grows in. You can see I do have all my, what is it called? Double pink tulips. I think that's what they were called. I am trying to overwinter these tulips because these tulips were so incredibly beautiful when they were blooming. Tulips usually don't naturalize for us here in Zone 9B. We don't get cold enough in the winter, but last winter we had such a cold winter that I had a ton of tulips come back that I just happened to leave in the ground. So now I'm actually going to take care of these and see if I let them soak in the sun from their foliage, see if they will come back next season. So we will see about those. Then coming over here, I do have this Wichita Blue Juniper. I love, love, love this tree. It is this beautiful silvery blue color. And then surrounding that, this is the garden bed that I was talking about that gets some sun and some shade. So the way that I manage that is that I plant another one of my favorite plants, and this is Surefire Rose Begonia. So Surefire Rose Begonia, it acts as a perennial here in Zone 9B. It can handle sun, it can handle shade. When it's in the shade, the blooms are kind of this dark rose color. When it's in the sun, they open up and they get this lighter pink color. So just depending on where it is in your garden bed is the color it's going to be. Here and here, those are Sarah Bernhardt peonies. I planted those, I don't know, a year and a half or 2 years ago, and I didn't think they were gonna do anything. I kind of just threw them in there. I don't think that they're gonna bloom this season, but they are growing. So we will see how they do. Right here, right below you, Jason, I have Pulmonaria. This one is called Spot On from Proven Winners. You can see the difference. This is kind of the generic common Pulmonaria. I just got these at the garden center. They're absolutely beautiful, gorgeous. But look at the difference in the bloom color. I just can't believe this. I just think it's so interesting to see these two together. So Spot On Pulmonaria and regular Pulmonaria that you can get from the garden center, both beautiful, really, really good shade plant. Come on over here to my shade window box. I just planted this up last week before I went to Washington. I went to the Tulip Festival in Washington. I planted this up before that, and it's already basically doubled in size. So I planted up a sun window box that's on the other side of my house. I will show you guys that in my backyard garden tour that will come out tomorrow. This is my part shade window box that I have up here. I have hippo pink polka dot plant, excuse me. There's a lot of plants to remember right now. Hippo pink polka dot plant here, which is this gorgeous foliage pink color. And then I have more of the Color Blaze Mini Me watermelon kind of dotted throughout. And then we have some diamond snow. And the diamond snow euphorbia, I am definitely pushing in this spot because it wants a little bit more sun than I'm giving it right now. But I have had someone tell me that they were able to grow it in a little bit more shade. So we will see how it does. I am really excited to see how this is going to do because I think it looks beautiful. Right underneath, this is kind of my shade garden bed. I have some hellebores down here. I have an ostrich fern that's starting to grow up right here. And then my hostas are starting to grow out as well. So really, really excited about that. This shade garden bed, you know, it's always hard. It's hard to find plants that do well in the shade. But I think I'm kind of catching my stride, and I think I'm really figuring out what I want to do and what works really well for this garden bed. I do want to show you guys my fuchsia. I got this when I went to the garden center with Robbie. He was making fun of me, but I don't care. I think it's beautiful. He's not a fan of fuchsia, but I just love it. I think it's so incredibly beautiful. I've never seen one that looks like that. All right, time to show you all a fail in my garden. I am like embarrassed about this, but it's totally my fault. And that is these 3 containers that I planted up right here. I planted these up on basically the first day of spring to celebrate spring coming. And they started not doing well. First off, the hydrangeas completely died and started getting crusty. And I thought, oh, well, that's because hydrangeas don't really do well for us here. Then the stalk started getting really kind of, and the helichrysum started not doing well. And the pansies weren't blooming, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I realized, oh, I forgot something. So I planted these up. I put the drip tubing in, but I didn't actually hook the drip tubing up. So frustrating. It's still surviving. Luckily, my spiral topiary is doing absolutely fine. Now I am hand watering it until I get around to hooking it up to drip. But this is just one of those things, you know, I'm rushing around and I'm trying to garden and get all these plants in as fast as I can. And I'm making mistakes, just like I did with the pentas over there. So I just wanted to show you guys this so you all know that we all make mistakes and it's okay, and I will probably just take, like, I'll take the stalk out and I'll take the hydrangea out, and I'll just replace it with a couple other plants for the garden tour. But I did want to show you guys this. All right, let me take you over to the cottage garden now. The cottage garden is looking so beautiful. Okay, before I get started showing you guys my cottage garden, I have to give you guys one more look of my Eden climbing rose. Come over here, Jason. Let me show you guys. Look at all these buds. I am going to be coming out here and checking it literally every single day because they're almost there. Is that an aphid? No. Okay, so this plant has been so clean this year. Knock on wood, I haven't had any aphids yet. I'm sure I will get some aphids, but it's just been a dream this year. I'm so excited about it. All right, so here is my cottage garden bed. This whole garden bed I am calling my cottage garden. It is a work in progress that I am working on making it this overflowing, crammed, really casual garden bed. It is a garden bed, like I said, it's a work in progress. It is something that I started a couple years ago. This garden bed used to be full of about 5 or 6 overgrown plumbago shrubs. And I don't have a lot of space in my garden, so we really have to use every garden bed to its maximum potential. So just having a garden bed that has overgrown shrubs just wasn't cutting it for me. So I took those out. I actually transplanted them over to my oak tree garden bed right behind me, and I started planting up with cottage garden perennials. And that, I think, was part of my issue last year, because perennials are beautiful, but they also don't bloom the whole season. They'll bloom for a couple weeks here, maybe a month or 2 there, and then they'll kind of stop for the rest of the season. So I always had a little bit of trouble with this garden bed last year because I felt like I didn't have a lot to show you guys. This year, I still have perennials in here, but I have a ton of annuals. I went crazy with the annuals this year, and already it's looking absolutely fantastic. So let me start over here and I will show you guys which annuals I have in here in my cottage garden this year. So I have another Superbena right here. This is called Superbena Stormburst, and it's kind of this striped purple and white flower. Again, these are called umbels when you're talking about verbenas. And I just think this is so cottage gardeny. I decided not to worry about color combinations. I just wanted all the colors. So you can see up here, I have this orange appeal Thumbergia. Can you see that? There we go. And that one is growing up this obelisk. I think it's going to be absolutely beautiful. I have Snow Princess Lobularia Sweet Alyssum right there. Those are going to get about 4 feet wide, so they're going to be huge. And then I have a pure white butterfly Marguerite Daisy. This plant has been a knockout so far. The bees have been all over it. I think it is just one of those classic, beautiful plants that are just going to fit perfectly in the cottage garden. These are going to get pretty tall, so it's going to be tall here, really tall there, Thumbergia, and then lower of the Superbena right there. So coming down this way, this is where I planted a whole bunch of my alliums. There are a whole bunch of different kinds. I think there was Sensation, I had Globe Master alliums, a whole bunch of different ones. I have one bloom right here. They're all coming, you can see, they're all coming, and I'm just crossing my fingers that they'll start blooming for the garden tour in about a week. But can you see, can you come over here and see that bloom starting? I don't know what kind that is, I don't know what kind any of them are, but I really hope they work. I tried growing Globe Master alliums last year, but a lot of my bulbs were kind of moldy actually. I planted them anyway, and only 2 came up. So alliums, I don't know. I'm a little nervous about alliums, but so far they're looking really, really good. So I'm excited about that. Come over here, Jason. This is one of those perennials I was telling you guys about. I actually got this one from Annie's Annuals. We're actually only about an hour away from Annie's Annuals. They're an online plant seller. Is that how you say it? Anyway, they're amazing. You have to check them out. I got this lime green Nicotiana there. It was a very small last year, and this year it's just going crazy, and I absolutely love it. Right next to that, I have AROMANCE Pink Nemesia. This is a cool weather loving flower. It's so incredibly beautiful. The AROMANCE series of the Nemesia are supposed to handle the heat a little bit better, but I think we just get too hot for them. So this is one that I'm going to expect to kind of crisp out by the time summer comes around, but that's okay. I think everything's going to grow in, and I think it's going to look really, really beautiful in the meantime. I have Lady Godiva calendula right here. That one, another classic cottage garden plant that's going to look absolutely beautiful. And then right behind that, I have Artist Pearl floss flower. My mom grew Artist Blue floss flower last year, and it was absolutely gorgeous. So I'm excited to see how the Artist Pearl does this year. All right, coming over this way, I have Whirlwind Blue Scaevola. This is one of those plants. In contrast to the Nemesia, this is going to be able to handle the heat no problem at all. So I'm really excited. These plants have already doubled in size, maybe almost tripled in size, and they are loving life right now. So excited to see how those do. This is a limelight hydrangea. It's all leafed out. It is happy. It is a happy plant. Behind there, Jason added these twine, I don't know, what would you call them, diamonds. Thank you, Jason, for adding these for me. So this is for not only for the black-eyed Susan to grow up. I have a couple black-eyed Susans dotted around, but also I put some sweet peas in there. I think I did elegance mix sweet peas. They haven't started blooming yet because this is an east-facing wall, so it only gets morning sun. I actually don't think they're going to be blooming for the garden tour, which is okay, but maybe by the end of May they will be blooming, which I will be excited to see. Oh, my peonies. So I did a video on growing peonies and growing peonies in our hot zone 9B. Peonies need a cool period, chill time during the winter. And like I was saying, we don't get very cold during the winter. So actually what I did this past winter is every week during December and half of January, I came out here and I dumped ice from my ice machine onto all my peonies out here. And you guys have been asking for an update. It worked like a charm. Look at this peony right here. This peony, I'm pretty sure it's the Shirley Temple peony. Okay, I labeled all of them, but they've all lost their labels, so I have to wait until they bloom and then I can identify them. Look at how many buds, you guys. Look at how many buds are on this one. So this one I actually bought as a plant. This one right here I planted as a tuber. Is that what you call it? Tuber or rhizome? I'm not sure. That one, Alexander Fleming back there. I mean, oh, I'm so excited about these. They are doing so incredibly well. I am a newbie peony grower, and I found an article online saying that yes, you absolutely can grow peonies in zone 9, which I didn't think you can, but like this is proof you absolutely can if you kind of do it right. I purposely put them in this garden bed for that gentle morning sun, so hopefully they don't scorch as it gets a little bit hotter. I'll be watching them and seeing how they do and keeping you all updated if you live in a similar climate like I do. All right, you see this one right next to me? This one, my neighbors just over there, unfortunately, their mothers passed away, both of their mothers, like within a month of each other. And one of their mothers had this peony plant in their garden. They're obviously selling her house, and so they dug it up and they gave it to me, and I planted it right by, so they drive by it every day. Jason is trying to show you guys there is a bud coming. So I don't know the exact name of this, but I'm pretty sure it is a Bartzella Ito peony. So I will be keeping my eye on this one, but I just cannot believe how big this plant has gotten. I think I planted it in January. So they dug out the whole root ball, and I just took it and I just plopped it in the ground right here. We will see how it does. We will see how many buds I get. I'm afraid that it's going to be so beautiful that people are going to come by and snip it because it's going to be that gorgeous, but I'll just beat them to it, so it'll be fine. All right, then we have the fairy garden. My girls and I, we are actually planning on revamping the fairy garden for summer before the Pence Gallery garden tour. You can see it has been well loved. There's been a lot of playing here. I did add some twine to my sign. I also added some twine to my sign over there. I do have sweet peas growing up, and then I just sowed some purple hyacinth bean down here so that I can have purple hyacinth bean growing up the sign, and I think it's going to be beautiful. All right, you guys, we're almost done. I have 2 more garden beds to show you. So this is my oak tree garden bed. This is the most natural garden bed that I have because it is kind of the furthest away from me. It's all the way around the corner. In this garden bed, I planted a lot of plants that I think are going to be really well handle being neglected really well. So I have some heuchera here. I have some buddleia here. You can see a lot back here. This is Naked Lady Amaryllis. This is the foliage stage. It's about done, but basically this Naked Lady Amaryllis, there's foliage at this time. The foliage will all die back, and then that's when the blooms will come up with none of the leaves there. So I'm gonna leave that here, even though it's a little bit messy. I think that I'm okay with that. Then over the winter, I planted a whole bunch of daffodils. I actually planted the spring loaded blend from colorblends.com, and I couldn't bring myself to get rid of them. I don't leave them in my front swoop because I can't leave the foliage up long enough for the bulbs to get enough energy for them to naturalize. So what I did is I just dug up the bulbs and I just transplanted them into the oak tree garden bed. So I did little groupings of the daffodils kind of all around here. You'll see a lot of the foliage, and then what I'll do is that I'll come through and I'll just cut back the foliage probably right before the garden tour, because that will be enough time where they've soaked in enough sun and got enough energy to bloom next year. Daffodils grow basically on the sides of the freeways for us here in California, at least where I live. So I don't have to worry about these plants at all. I can just leave them and enjoy their blooms next year. I do want to show you guys this wild onion here. So this plant is beautiful. Jason, come closer so people can see this. I want to give a fair warning of this wild onion. This wild onion is gorgeous. It is an absolute beautiful plant. It is so invasive though. It is so invasive. I had a neighbor come by and tell me that his whole backyard had been taken over by this plant, and he can't plant anything else because this plant keeps taking over. So you can see that I do have it in my garden bed. I left these in here so that you guys could see them. You could see how beautiful they are. But if you live in my area, you might want to think about trying to pull them. Now here's the hard thing about wild onion is that it's really hard to pull them with the bulbs still attached. A lot of times you pull and the leaves will come off and the bulb will stay in the ground. So some people even go through and dig up all the bulbs just to get rid of it. I'll try pulling this. Do you want to come see this? So I'll try pulling this kind of at the base and seeing if I can pull the whole bulb out. I feel like I'm not going to get it. Oh, I got it. All right. And there you go. So that's what you want to pull when you pull these wild onions. So I need to go through and I need to pull all of these. You know, they look like a really pretty plant that you want to have in your garden, but you really, unfortunately, you don't want these in your garden. All right, and finally, I wanted to give you guys an update on my cut flower garden. So in this garden bed, I had a whole bunch of daffodils and a whole bunch of tulips, and I just pulled them out today, and we mulched. I've never really mulched my garden bed really well before. I'm so excited about it. I think it makes the whole thing look so incredibly beautiful. Plus, it's going to keep a lot of the moisture in, and it's going to keep the soil cool, which is fantastic. I will show you guys the mulch that I'm using this year. First, I want to show you my ranunculus. Look at how pretty these guys are. They are so beautiful. I'm sorry, I don't remember the names of any of them. I am so bad about that, you guys. A lot of them I saved, like this whole grouping I saved from last year. I think that this is just a pink mix of ranunculus. So beautiful. I'm gonna come out here and I'm gonna cut a ton of them because I want to enjoy them for indoors. And then coming up here, I have my afternoon white cosmos. These are one of my favorite cosmos. I think that they're just the prettiest thing. They're another one of those just classic flowers. They look so good in cut flower arrangements. They are going to get absolutely massive. So I'm going to come through and I'm going to trim all of them so that they keep growing, but I absolutely love this plant. In the middle right here, I have some pincushion flower mix. On the far side, I have some Ami that I'm going to use as a filler. And then right here, I have my Forever Happy Status that is doing so well. We got a little bit of mulch on it, but you can see that the plants are getting really, really big, and I'm sure they're gonna start blooming soon. And then right here, look at my sweet peas. This is Elegance Watermelon Sweet Peas. They are the most beautiful sweet pea I've ever seen. They're absolutely they're just so beautiful. So the reason why I chose these was purely for the color. I saw something like this on that Floret show, Finding Floret, and I just had to have the color like that. So I found these on the Johnny's website, and this is the exact color that I was going for, just because I think they're so beautiful. And I think they smell so very good. So let me show you guys the mulch. We completely took out all of our mulch. We had the big chunks of black mulch before, which I love. I think that that mulch is the most beautiful when it's fresh and it's clean, but I have learned in my Master Gardener's class that it's really not good for your garden. It's not the type of mulch you want. It doesn't break down very easily. It's of course dyed, and then because it's black, it keeps the soil temperature too hot, which isn't good for the pollinators and the bugs inside your soil. It's not good for the fungus in your soil, and it's really not good for your plants. So Jason and I decided we were going to take all of it out rather than, because we obviously had to replenish some of it. Instead of replenishing it this year, we decided just to take it all out and to replace it with this mulch. This mulch I copied my friend Robbie from Visit Our Garden. This is called Garden Time Pathway Ground Cover. And you can see it's beautiful. It's really, really pretty. It's obviously not black, which I wish it was black, but I think it's dark enough. It's going to break down really, really well. I think even just mixing this in with my soil is going to loosen up my clay, loamy soil. I think that this is just going to be so much better for my garden, for my soil in the long run. So I'm really excited that I did that. All right, the sun is now setting. For those of you still watching at the end of this garden tour, a big thank you to you for watching all the way to the end. I really, really appreciate it. My family and I have been working so hard in the garden this month to get ready for the Pence Gallery garden tour, and I'm so proud of my garden this month. I'm so proud of it this year. I think this year is going to be the best year ever. I cannot wait to see how it does over the upcoming months. So I hope this was motivating for you, and I hope you all have a chance to get in your garden today.